So, why do you think that under atheistic worldview, objective morality can't exist?
How could it exist under atheistic worldview? I mean, if we are the product of survival, if we are the product of this social biological conditioning, and our highest rationale is to survive and reproduce, then what adaptive value does it have? Like, what adaptive value does it give us to have these objective moral truths, right? One of the professors in Oxford University said it. He made it really very clear by saying that morality is nothing but a biological adaptation, like hand, teeth, and hand, right? Any deeper meaning, anything more than that. He further says that when anyone says, love thy neighbor above thyself, they think that they are referring something above and beyond. And he, at the end, says that it's nothing but an illusion. And in fact, Darwin himself said that if we were reared as hive bees, then it would have been really okay for us to have, for us to kill our siblings, because that's how hive bees live. Or take the example of nurse sharks. How do they live? They wrestle with their mates. So if we are the product of this social biology, then how could it lead us to have this moral outlook? I mean, why? And why does it do that? And in fact, sometimes what happens, it becomes detrimental for our survival to have these moral truths. I mean, to act upon these moral truths. Because for me, carrying this perspective of objective morality, that means that I have some moral obligations, right? I have some moral duties. And sometimes what happens, like, in order to save somebody else, what I do, I put myself into a risk, right? That makes my survival dangerous, right? And that's not good for my survival. So how could biology lead us to something called objective morals when it is detrimental for our survival? And somebody would come up and say that social consensus, that's a ridiculous idea. I'll explain why. Because if society is who's going to decide about moral truths, then it is only society. It is just this group of people. It has nothing to do with future. It has nothing to do with past. And if this is what the reality is, the moral outlook, what we are having today, could be altogether different tomorrow. Tomorrow we can have totally a different set of morals, right? Or in the past, if something has happened in the past, something bad has happened in the past, then you will never be in a position to say that that is bad, that is objectively bad. Because at that time, it was a social consensus of people of that time. Like, take the example of Nazi Germany. What happened, we all know. Jews were being eliminated from all over the place. And there was a social consensus about that. There was a social consensus about that. It was okay for those people to kill the Jews.
Yeah.
So, if society are the ones who are going to decide about these moral outlooks, then we can never be in a position to say that that incident happened wrong. It shouldn't have happened. Because at that time, this was a social consensus, right? Or take the example of the ancient Hindus. What did they used to do? They used to burn their females alive if her husband is dead, right? So it's not a problem. It's not morally wrong for us to say they were committing this horrific act. Or take the example of murdering. We can never be in a position to say that if a murder has taken place in the past, then it's not bad, because at that time it was a different moral outlook, right? We can only talk about what we have today. So in that circle, in that worldview, right, you can never be in a position to say anything about future or about the past. Somebody may come and say moral realism, this is what we have. This is what is going to define moral outlook, right? Then it's just an explanation without justification. You're not justifying how. You're just saying that it just is. We are born with this innate nature. But you're not describing how. That's the problem. And if one carries this perspective, if one carries this idea, right, in his mind, then how would it be wrong to say, if I get an intuition, right, to kill somebody or to harm somebody, how would it be wrong objectively? Because I am getting this intuition within myself, which is telling me to do something bad, right? How would that be wrong? I could say, oh, for me, killing somebody is okay because I'm born with that state. For us theists in general, we have an anchor point, from where we get this moral outlook. And that anchor point is what we call Allah. And because we believe that Allah to be perfectly good. He has maximal knowledge. He has maximal wisdom, right? So we get this moral outlook from this being, right? This is the one who decides things that are good, things that are bad. Now, under atheistic worldview, nothing is really bad. To be fair, to be honest with you, nothing is really bad. It's like, I'm just putting in forth, without any justification. For us, it becomes a moral obligation for us to do something good, right? Because we think that Allah gave us this moral outlook, right? So it becomes an obligation for us to do a good act, right? As Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, that if you be merciful to others, the one in the heavens and the earth is going to be merciful to you. So we get this moral outlook, things that are good and bad, from that being who himself is perfect being, right? This is from where we get morals. Yeah, this is from where we get this moral standard. But under atheism, there is no value, there is no meaning, there is no nothing, right? It's just a random, non-rational physical processes. Then how on earth can I claim to be morally great or morally sound by carrying this worldview? And one more, I'm not saying, but you have to be a believer in order to have this. I have met some atheists who were really fantastic. What I'm talking about is the moral ground, where you can peg these morals, where you can say for sure that these things are morally bad, these things are morally good.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about that, you have to be a believer in order to display good, right? I'm not,